No.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
All right, it's that time again, Tim.
Yeah, it's a good time of the year, though. That's that time. I love it. This is one of my favorite weekends of the year. Just this game means so much. The rivalry, Jacksonville, hometown, family, everything it represents. It's so fun. Look forward to it every year.
Look,
I'm glad Nation's here too.
Yeah, obviously, there's big games all across the country, but there's something different just about this neutral meeting point. The two teams, this lifelong rivalry.
Yeah, there are a lot of great atmospheres for college football, but very few like this. A lot of good home and homes, but this one on neutral site, being here in Jacksonville, the atmosphere here, which we're not allowed to call it its name, but then the rivalry, the dislike, the state versus state, the high school recruiting, everything into it. I just think just breeds a really exciting, awesome game. The half and half in the stadium, the red and black, the orange and blue. It's a good one.
Is this the matchup for the SEC East?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's going to be a lot of other big games. Georgia still has to play Auburn. Florida have to play Missouri. There's some big games, but this is a difference maker.
What are you looking forward to offensively wise for the Gators? What are you hyped, excited to see?
I think they've done a really good job as receivers and running backs have been able to make a lot of big plays after the contact or breaking tackles. I think that'll be another big key in this game. I think that's what won the game against Auburn. It is what won the game against Auburn. To be able to break the long 80-yard run, is through broken tackles. Really good design, but then be able to beat me in coverage and win. I think that'll be another key in this game. They were able to get some against LSU, but not in the fourth quarter. And I think that'd be a huge key.
Defensively then, too?
Getting pressure on Jake. I think, having two fresh defensive ends that you don't have to necessarily win to where you get sacks or forced fumbles, but just to be able to move him off his spot, take his eyes off of the coverage, just slow down his rhythm a little bit. That would have been huge against LSU in last year. Last year, Jake was on fire on third down. It's where they got a bunch of their touchdowns, especially starting the game. And on those third and longs, maybe when you have Grenard and a Zuniga healthy that are just, being able to disrupt the presence of the quarterback that, could change the outcome of a game.
Tim, how sold are you on the Georgia defense? They haven't played an opponent with the depth at receiver of the Gators this far.
Yeah, I think they've had a good season. I think, they haven't been tested by necessarily that many good offenses yet. So I think they've come up in some big moments against a good Notre Dame team when they had to stop them. I think it's a good defense. I think they can show if they're great or not, though, which some of the Georgia defenses of the past really showed up in big moments to do that. And so it'll be a big test to see if they will, and they can.
Weather forecast is kind of up in the air tomorrow. How could that
like what?
Game?
How so?
Like some rain.
Oh, really?
Rain
game time?
Right before game time.
Yeah, I didn't think Georgia handled it well against Kentucky. I didn't like anything about it, to be honest with you. Rain can sometimes distort an offense, or it can help an offense. I always felt it was an advantage. I felt the defense is going to slip. It's going to be easier for me to run over defenders and drive to them. They don't know where receivers cutting. I loved it. I honestly, it was some of my favorites. I thought other people hesitated more. They were slower. It was one of my favorites. So I think it's a mentality that they have. I don't think we've really seen this Florida team play too much in the rain. We haven't seen Kyle handle the rain, so that's more of an unknown. I think we've seen Georgia, and I think their defense played really well in the rain. But I think our offense would have to play better than they did against Kentucky.
Look, Tim, you've been in their shoes. Tell me about the nerves, especially for these younger players.
It's a joke. This game, the nerves are an absolute joke. I think it was even more so for me because I put a lot of the pressure on myself too in this game. One, just coming home, my family here, what it meant to my dad. It was a lot. So I put a lot of pressure. And I tell you, when we come over that Hart Bridge and you see that sea of people, your stomach's turning. And if you say it's not, then I just don't know if you're always being honest with yourself. And I remember my junior year getting ready for a Georgia team that had stupid amount of talent. Matt Stafford, A.J. Green, Justin Houston, Noshawn Marino, Massaquoi, Rennie Curran, Geno Atkins. I mean, just the list of studs was a joke. That year, or that week, I remember getting several migraines because all the stress I was putting on studying so much and preparing for that game. Probably the most I've prepared for any game in my life because it just meant that much. That's what this game does. It's just different.
Can you talk about Coach Grantham and just what he's been able to do on the offensive side of the ball?
Sure. Yeah, I think Coach Grantham's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. I think his scheme really gives him an edge. They're able to bring it off nub-size corner pressures, bring Sam Strong safety from the field back and forth, and they bring so many looks. I think it would also help, though, if they're able to get more pressure without blitzing, and so they don't always have to pressure to get to move the quarterback off his spot. And if they can do that, then it goes from a defense that's good, sometimes really good, to maybe great.
And then lots talked about Coach Mullen, but Coach Johnson's done a great job.
Great job.
Kind of behind the scenes.
Great job. Yeah, I think Coach Johnson, Brian's done a great job. I think he does a really good job being patient with the quarterbacks, listening to the questions that they're asking, and being able to break a game down, or break a play down, a formation down, whatever they're going through, down to really a great way to be able to understand it. And I think he did a great job when Kyle was the backup of preparing Kyle in case he was going to be the starter. And just remember sitting in meetings and listening to their communication, Kyle asking questions and Brian break it down, and that's what prepared Kyle to be ready for this moment. Give Kyle a lot of credit because, I mean, he focused and studied and prepared, but it's a great coaching job in my opinion.
If you were James Coley, how would you flip the script? You've been vocal about the criticism of the Georgia offense. What would you do differently, or how do you think?
Be aggressive. I would be aggressive early. I would take my shots. They did it last year, and I thought it was very effective. It's not that you want to be critical of him. He's new and he's figuring it out. This is his first time with Jake and figuring it out, and it's Jake's first time with him and their offense, so they're trying to figure it out. But I just think where the offenses are right now in the SEC, you look to be the best in the SEC. You look at the way Florida's kind of keeping people off balance offensively, what LSU is doing with Joe Brady, what is happening with the RPO at Alabama. Those offenses, for most of the defenses, you can literally see them on their heels trying to figure it out, not knowing, is it run, is it pass, is it play action, are we going to have a zone read? I mean, there's so many options you're throwing at them. And then when you get to Georgia, it's not the same options. It's not the same keep them on your heels. Look at the South Carolina game. It's very clear. They were playing, I think, man coverage 24 times. Every time they were playing soft off man and catching them at 6 to 8 yards because they knew what was coming. They were being aggressive with them, being physical with the receivers. So I think if I'm Georgia, I take shots early. When I get them in quarters, I'm taking a shot at my post. When I get them in man coverage, I'm taking a shot if Cager's playing. I'm being able to start out and empty and motioning DeAndre back in and being able to continue to use my weapons in a way that keeps the defense off balance and gives DeAndre, who still could be the best running back in the country, the ability to be the best and not have a defense key on him. But I think that's why we love this game so much, is because there's so many ways to break it down, to evaluate it. And just because Georgia hasn't been that efficient, effective, or probably what we thought they would be offensively, doesn't mean they can't tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. That's what a great game plan does and changes. And so, I was just telling it on Paul's show, Georgia, although I think some fans would probably say it's been a little disappointing for them, everything is still right in front of them for them to win the East and compete for SEC and national championship. Everything's in front of them. It just doesn't click. And if it can click and come together, then you still have a very dangerous team.
Real quick, how do you feel about athletes getting paid?
I think that I explained that like a lot of different times. I think that I'm in favor of being able to support the athletes, of being able to do that financially, holistically. I think it's how we do it that's really important. And so, I'm in favor of being able to take care of them, but I want to take care of them holistically in every way possible. And I think one of the things that I'm also passionate about is 78% of players that stop playing in the NFL go broke within 2 years. So there's also a part of it that we got to continue to holistically help our student athletes and learning and developing and being ready to take on life after sports. And I think that's incredibly important. But there's so many ways to look at it that I just want to be a part of the solution of finding better ways to help in all these areas. I do think, finances need to be part of it. I don't know that necessarily that just having a free-for-all is the way to go. So I'm really intrigued to see with the rulings that they say, name and likeness with the collegiate model. I don't know what that means. And they say they're going to put into some rules in recruiting. I don't know what that means either. And so I think it's just interesting to be able to see how it all comes together. And I really hope that they do a good job, because I think the game means a lot to a lot of us, but more importantly, the student athletes mean a lot, because we need to set them up in the right position to succeed in every area of life in their future.
Thanks, guys, so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate